Okay, so good afternoon to anyone who's viewing us from Italy. Okay, if you're in the European time zone, then good afternoon. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Maybe you're having lunch. If you're joining us from Asia, well, then good evening because it's about 7, 8 p.m. there. It's dinner time. For those of you who are joining my live for the first time, my name is Alexandra Gonzon. I'm a communication coach for the fashion industry, and my main goal is to empower non native English speakers to better express themselves so that they can advance their professional and personal growth. Now, just a quick backgrounder for those of you who don't know me well enough. I'm based in Italy. I'm joining you live from Florence today. Florence is basically second home to me. I came here back in 2015 to take up my master's in fashion. So my background really is in fashion. And I pivoted into education and then into communication when I became a mom in 2015. But just to let you know that I came here specifically to pursue fashion. So this is something that's very, very close to my heart. And when I did that, I had that dream of promoting Philippine fashion and understanding what it was that made in Italy different. And maybe I could somehow learn from that and promote Philippine fashion eventually. But life has its own way of presenting different opportunities, and things turned out a bit differently, but that's okay. And that's why I'm very excited to present today's guest. Okay, because she is definitely doing what I had envisioned. I'm so thrilled to be chatting with her today because Francesca is an inspiration, not just for me, but I know for a lot of people out there, maybe for a lot of women even, who have always dreamt of putting up something meaningful in the fashion industry. Okay, so I don't want to take so much more of my time. So I'm going to bring on Francesca so she can introduce herself, and we're going to be talking to her about her journey and, of course, the beautiful company called Endelea.
Hello, ciao Alexandra.
Hi. Hi,
Happy to see you.
Francesca. So, thank you again for taking the time to be with us here today. I know you're very busy. But I really, since I read about Endelea, and of course, I think it was 4 weeks ago when I had the chance to listen to one of your webinars, I said, "Wow, I have to interview you because you've ticked all the boxes. Okay, you're doing it all." And so I want you to tell our listeners today a little bit about yourself. Okay, so tell us a little bit about your journey. What happened from the beginning and how Endelea came about?
All right. So I hope I'm not gonna take too much time just with that part, because the journey started when I was 6, and I really dreamt of becoming an archaeologist after
Okay.
watching Indiana Jones for the first time, and I actually did that. I actually graduated in archaeology, and worked in these amazing places like Syria, Libya, Italy, of course, before the wars, and
Okay.
I had like incredible, amazing opportunities to live that dream that I had since I was a child. But then eventually, life, as you were saying in the introduction, life gets always in the middle and changes all plans. So I enrolled in a master in marketing and communication to be able to find a paid job in Italy, and then after that, I was able to work with museums and digital communication, which was amazing. I mean, really an incredible opportunity for me, including the fact that at some point I was working with this digital agency who taught me everything about social media and communication. And I actually left the company to push forward my own personal project dealing with museums and communication. And thanks to that, I dropped the only paid job that I ever had so far to go and work for free in the US for the Smithsonian Institution. But that actually allowed me to close one circle because I had the opportunity to hold the original Indiana Jones whip.
Wow, amazing. Okay, that was like a milestone for you, I imagine.
Yeah, it's just like, to share that dreams do come true, not necessarily
Yes.
the way we planned for, but it
Yes.
actually can happen if you follow your heart and you really, are true to yourself. So that was the first big jump that I did, leaving archaeology for, marketing and social media. And then eventually I worked with museums, and when I was the happiest person on earth for a couple of years. But then I had to take another big jump into the void and leave museums because they weren't paying me enough to be able to, afford life in Milan and rent in Milan. And I was somehow, what I say is like I found myself working in fashion. So I started working with social media for a fashion brand in Milan, probably
Okay.
living what feels like the dream for a lot of people, including you, in a way.
Right,
Like
absolutely.
big fashion company, Milan, Milan Fashion Week, Paris Fashion Week. I was doing social media, so I was always, at the forefront of anything that was happening,
Anything.
the razzle dazzle, the
Yes,
influencers, like Chiara Ferragni and all
the
that.
glamorous
And
life. Right.
yeah, exactly that. But also, it was a very like transforming experience for me
Okay.
because it taught me a lot in terms of like social media and fashion, but also it taught me a lot about myself.
Okay.
And I found out that what would make like 100 people happy doesn't necessarily make me happy. I was deeply unhappy, and it was partly because I was asking, like I turned 31, 32, and I was asking myself, like, is this it? Like, is this the meaning of my life? Is this why I'm on
Okay.
this planet, to
Okay.
pose from fashion shows?
Right.
And in sync with this, I was growing more aware of the negative impact that fashion has on
Okay.
people and the planet. And so I
Okay.
wanted to do something that at the same time could be able to, switch my life, like give more meaning to my life
Okay.
by having a positive impact on other people's lives, but at the same time could prove that this industry I was working for, so fashion, could actually
Right.
be good and do good other than just looking good,
Right.
So
Right.
this
Okay.
whole, personal crisis built up the momentum for a trip to Africa, in which I found out, the wax fabrics. I discovered
Okay.
the wax fabrics, and I just asked to a local tailor. I was in Zambia at that time if she could make a skirt for me, and the skirt was really horrible. I'm sorry to say that, but it was like
Was
it was
beautiful.
really hard to wear in Milan. And I remember thinking, okay, but the fabrics are amazing. There's a lack of fashion
Okay.
design, but we can bridge that, and we can bridge the Italian knowledge on fashion design with these amazing fabrics and create something that can be beautiful,
Okay.
and bring value to the customers in Europe who would have access to this type of vibes and colors and energy, but with designs that are thought for our lifestyle and our types of bodies, but at the same time clothes that can bring value to the people who make them along the supply chain, and can bring more skills and bring more money and fair jobs and fair pays in an African country. So
Okay.
I came back from that trip, and I actually quit my job the day after
Oh
coming
my
back.
God. Wow.
And
Yeah.
I only had a PowerPoint presentation in my hands that was
Okay.
going to be the future in the Lea, and
Okay.
that's how it started. That's
And
how
that's how
everything
it's
started.
amazing. Francesca, you've told us about, you basically studying something that's completely different. Although, of course, everything is going to be, everything is connected at the end of the day, right? But just
It is.
from the first 10 minutes of this chat, I mean, I'm understanding like how much of a risk taker and a visionary you are. Because I mean, like right when you, I mean, you were at the Smithsonian, and that's like the peak, right? If you're in archaeology, that's your end goal. But then you left and you basically gambled. You said, let's try out fashion. And then you realized, wait a minute, this can't be the end all and be all, and decided to, basically you let your heart be driven. But you fell in love with Africa, the African fabric, and said, okay, this is it. I'm leaving my job and starting something new. That's amazing. That says a lot about how you are as a person, and just your hunger for purpose. And I think that's something that a lot of us can definitely learn from, especially people who aspire to become entrepreneurs. Okay, so you decided, okay, it's going to be a brand that's going to showcase the very best of African textile, and married with the Italian know-how, design know-how. Yes. Tell me, like, when you started talking to people about this idea, what was the general reaction?
So actually, my friends and my family would be like, "Are you out of your mind? Like, did you lose your mind?"
Yes.
I even remember someone asking me, "What about your future pension?" And I was like, "What
Right.
about it? Is in 35 years from now, if it will never come, you know?" So in
Okay.
general, the reaction of my people in Italy was not negative, but realistic in a way, with too much realism for my taste.
Okay.
I'm an optimist, and when they ask me what's the most important ingredient to be an entrepreneur, I say optimism.
Okay.
Which doesn't mean that we're stupid and we don't see the possibilities that everything goes bad, but it's
Right.
just being aware that things can go bad, still choosing to believe that they will go well, and
Yes.
that's the key, and the push that drove my whole life. And I think it's what drives like every other entrepreneur. It's like believing that there is a bridge there and just taking the jump. And I'm making an Indiana Jones reference right now, so I don't know how many people would notice that, but it's the leap of faith. It's called the leap of faith in the movie,
Yes.
and it's actually what it feels like most of my life. So it's just, okay, believe that the bridge is there and take that further step and just see what waits for you on the other side of it. And I've been like I've been talking with people in Africa, and of course here in Tanzania, everyone was like, the idea is amazing, it's absolutely gonna work, and the
Right.
positive energy around it was incredible. And that was
Okay.
the energy and the motor that really prompted me into
Okay.
of the day after I came back. Now, having spent 7 years in Tanzania, I know that they would say that to anyone, regardless whatever the idea is. So
Okay.
I guess I was naive, but also I think naivety is part of it. No, so what you call courage,
Yeah.
it felt like a lot of naivety until a few years ago. I just learned that I was brave. I guess 2 years ago, I used to talk about myself like a naive person, because I
Okay.
didn't know what was what was waiting for me around the corner.
Right.
And I just thought it's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be easy. I was like, what does it
Okay.
take to create a fashion brand?
Right.
That kind
Yes.
of attitude. It cannot be that hard. I mean, I didn't
Right.
know anything about social media, and then I became a social media manager, and I didn't know anything about
Exactly.
fashion. And that I was the person that brought that brand from 40,000 followers to 1 million followers in 2 years. So it's like,
Okay. So
anything can
how hard can it be, right? Okay.
yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
what does it take?
Right.
And you learn, like, as soon as you start, you learn how like incredibly bigger than your idea of it, the mountain you have to climb is. And I started with basic things. I was going to start a fashion brand. I already quit my job for that. And I remember
Okay.
talking to a fellow colleague in that brand I was working for, and she studied fashion design, and she was doing newsletters.
Okay.
And I asked her, like, would you design for me
Right.
my collection? And she told me, yes, of course, but do you have a like a pattern maker? And I was like,
Maker, right?
I was like, I didn't
Can't
even
you do
know.
that? Can't you do the pattern and design?
I didn't even know what a pattern was or a pattern
Okay.
maker was. And I already quit my job to do this. So I'm
Okay.
sharing this because, it doesn't take to check all the boxes before starting. What it takes is really, the purpose, the reason why you're doing it, and the passion to push forward and really pursue that goal, that the reason why that you have. And then that's going to drive you through all the challenges and all the guess what, I didn't know that VAT were supposed to be added to the prices. and,
Oh my gosh, let's
I've
not
thought
even
about
talk
that.
about the bureaucracy, right?
No, yeah, don't get me started on that. I'm an archaeologist. I know how to read hieroglyphics, but I'm really in deep waters when it comes to finance and bureaucracy and tax and all that. So I'm sharing this because if someone who didn't know about VAT until the night before going live with the website is still here, I mean, I didn't reach any success yet, but I'm still here, and that's already a success in a way after 4 years. It means that any one of you can do anything you want. I mean, it's just a matter of wanting it enough, and and pushing and being able to go through all the valley of death and pain and sweat, and tears that is there, because it's there. I don't want to tell you that it's easy at all, but it doesn't even feel like a job anymore. At some point, it feels like a mission. And then, of course, that will change the whole perspective around it. And again, there are days in which I'm asking myself, who made me do this? I mean, like, why? But then when I ask myself, why did you do this? Then I know the answer. I know why did I do this, no? And that puts up with everything at some point. So,
beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, so Francesca, you've been telling us again that for coming from a very different background, it was really your sense of purpose that kept you moving forward. So if you can identify maybe one or two skills or skill sets that you think have been really helpful in allowing you to build what you've built today, what would those skills, because it sounds like it's the skills more than your knowledge, because again, you have a completely different knowledge set coming from archaeology, going into fashion entrepreneurship.
Knowledge set of communication for fashion helped in a way, but I was lacking so many other skills. I mean, knowledge, and complete like huge areas were uncovered, logistical, finance, legal, like entirely. But the skills, I think, would be, as I already said, like optimism in a way, and passion and resilience, because you need to know that it's a long marathon and not like a speed run.
And you sprint.
So you need to have that kind of long-term vision, and being able to have a vision. I think if that's a skill at all, I would add that. Absolutely, the being driven by a vision, which is a dream, a passion, like we can call it anyway, but the ability to see, beyond the immediate, horizon, and be able to see like the final goal and the final destination of it all, like makes the journey more bearable, and most importantly, brings other people on board with you, because you make them also see that destination, that journey, and that vision that you have, and that's the key, of course. And this is another skill that made me survive and made NDLEA survive so far. I'm a people person. I'm definitely like born to be with people, to talk to people, to listen to them, to be empathetic with them, and that allowed me to find the right people for NDLEA to grow. Of course, I didn't do any of this alone, and since the very beginning, I had support and help at the beginning, just from my friends and my family for free, and then during the years, of course, somehow my authenticity and my ability to communicate that drew in so many other people that are now sharing this vision and sharing this journey. So that's another skill for sure. And then I would say patience, even though I'm not a patient person at all. So it comes weird from me. But it's needed to survive in the long run. Absolutely. And I would say, the ability not to, not to be stuck with your original idea, the ability to change your mind, the ability to listen to others, and not be, absolutely totally in love with your idea to the point that you're risking the whole project just to prove that you were right. No, stubbornness doesn't work well with startups, and I'm learning that the hard way because I'm a very stubborn person. So you see, I can also tell you not only the things that I had, but also the skills that I had to develop, and it's a constant work in progress around that. So open, like launching anything of your own, no? So being an entrepreneur definitely means, growing as a person to levels that as a person and as a professional, but as a person as well, like to levels that you wouldn't reach in a lifetime of working as an employee. And again, with good and negative, with positive and negative aspects to this.
Yes.
But yeah, I think it like keeping your heart open and being open to a constant, relearning process, a constant learning by doing process. It's also another skill. Never think that you arrived anywhere, because everything is going to be completely different in a month from now. That's it. So you have to be flexible. Yeah, that's the word. Flexibility.
Adaptability. And adaptability. Okay. Yeah. So wow. So you're talking to us about optimism, resilience, patience, adaptability, communication. And so my question is, and I can see that you're very, very passionate about these skills. How do you ensure that your team, I know Endelea's team is split between the two continents, basically. How do you ensure that your team, that these skills are also learned by your team? How do you do that? How do you make sure that everyone keeps learning?
That's a great question, and I cannot answer that because I'm now in the process of learning a lot about this, like a lot about HR and people management. Because I guess since the beginning until like 6 months from now, I simply led by example. I simply shared honestly and openly how I felt about everything, and I allowed other people to come forward. I don't know how to say that. I don't choose roles, I choose people. So the whole HR part in Endelea was done like following instinct. So it's like this person will bring the right energy rather than this person will bring this and this skill. And of course that works perfectly when you move from 1 to 5. But then when you go from 5 to 15, it's when you actually need to other skills that I didn't know existed, which is like HR related. So the ability to read people, the ability, as you said, not to train them, to keep the training in progress always, to read their change of vibe and their difficulties. So there are things that I'm learning myself the hard way, of course, because that's the only way to learn.
That's the only way to learn.
Yeah. And there are other things that I was like lucky enough, because I attracted the right people, so it wasn't so hard to learn.
So actually, Francesca, that was going to be my next question, because I'm sure for other aspiring fashion entrepreneurs, that's also a question they're asking themselves. How do we attract the right people? Because you have the vision very clear in your head. How do you attract the right people who are going to not just see that vision, but be passionate about that vision just like you are?
And again, I so far I based the whole thing on instinct, and on
Okay.
being, on
Okay.
showing
Showing.
myself like fully, like the way I
Right.
am and the way Endelea is, without hiding anything from them.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
I'm learning now that, of course, the fact that Endelea is this beautiful project now, trying to
Yeah.
change fashion for good, trying to really disrupt the way things are done in this industry. And so it, especially after COVID, it started attracting a lot of people in the industry that were like fed up with the system and wanted to, get out of it and
Right.
take a, positive spin
Right.
within the system.
Find
So
something meaningful about it. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, so and I felt like humbled and honored that people like who worked 10 years in Prada or in Gucci were willing to work with me on my, on what I always felt like was my little project, but it's not
Okay.
that anymore. It's a
Right.
fashion brand by all means. And
Yes.
so I guess that the mistake I made was to think more of them. So what can Endelea do for them, rather
Okay.
than focus also on what they could do for Endelea.
Right.
And because I see this now, no, so Endelea can provide like a way out for a lot of people working in the fashion industry, but on the other
Absolutely.
hand, you need to ask yourself, what can these people bring in the small
Yes.
startup? Because it takes, I mean, and I'm saying this for all the fashion entrepreneurs out there, no, you will know that it takes like this multitasking level to crazy, no, and
Right.
this flexibility and adaptability that is not at all linked with the big fashion brands, and
Right.
decision making, risk taking, like quick, fast adaptability, and the ability of having a perspective from above, take strategic decision in very short time. So these are all skills that are not written on a resume
Of
at
course.
all. And it's very hard for me now to tell you what's the trick, because I'm still fine tuning that myself.
Right. Right.
And again, I go back to what I told you before. I choose the person and not the role so
Okay.
far, and so far so good. But from now on, I probably need support, and and that's also fine. Like understanding which are your limits, and the fact
Yes.
that I'm such an optimistic person doesn't help. Because I always see the possibility that this person
Right.
will switch, that this person
Yes.
will adapt and learn and take the speed that it's necessary. But not everyone has that. Not everyone is meant to be an entrepreneur,
Yes.
and it's fine, and it can be also very damaging for people who are not built that way, because they will feel frustrated and not enough, and it will like question their own professional figure, which is not
Yes.
okay on our side neither, no. So I guess at some point, for the first years, it's absolutely fine if you follow your instincts, and then from some other point on, you need a professional help in selecting
Right.
people. So yeah,
Yeah.
I guess that's my advice at the end.
Okay. Well, I mean that sounds that sounds right, because I mean, if like you're in a startup mode, right? Then as an entrepreneur, you're gonna have to trust your instinct a lot. And I mean, and then as you scale, obviously, as your team becomes bigger, then you are going to need other skill sets to infuse your team with. But in the beginning, I mean, I imagine that's how most entrepreneurs start anyway. So really just surrounding yourself with people who you trust. And how do you even measure that? That's normally, as you said, by gut instinct. So people
Yeah.
who have the same vibe, who feel right for the brand, especially for a brand like Endelea. I mean, it has to, you really have to be aligned 100%, because it's not, you can't be halfway through, and you have very very specific you have a very specific philosophy. You know exactly what you want to do. It's ambitious, so they have to be on board 100%. So I think that's a very important message. And I also like the fact that you're telling people, you don't need to have everything figured out from the start, because that's not even possible. If you think you're going to have everything checked out, you're not even going to make that first step, like you said. it really is a leap of faith. And,
like that
this
for
is,
me, so it's like that for everyone else in the team. And that's the thing about being open and honest about that. It's like I tell them I'm learning with you. I've never been, an entrepreneur before. I've never been a CEO before. Nobody told me how to do that, and I'm
okay,
learning and making mistakes just like you are. So mistakes are okay as long as you learn from them. It's absolutely fine. And that's the beauty of working in a small company, in a startup company. That there's really like a sense of team that is beyond anything you can imagine from big firms, big companies. No, because you really are in this together. We really are in this together. And you learn how to recalibrate after each mistake of each of us. And I'm also one making mistakes, of course. But it's the beauty of it also. It's like the fact that everyone in the company feels really necessary, feels
okay,
like they all have a real impact over the
yes,
company destiny. So that is also like a huge responsibility for people, and they're not used to that. No, it's like you always
absolutely.
have like your boss and the boss of your boss and the boss of the boss of your
Yes,
boss.
it's so
In
hierarchical in fashion.
it's like
You're in charge of like this little thing, and that's it.
yeah, it's like, okay, I press this button and we spend 100,000 euros, and who cares, no? Because the company has so much. And I was there, so I know how that works. While here, it's like, no, 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 you don't press the button without thinking. Because if you press the button and it's only 1,000 euros, still in our limited horizon, it matters, and
Of
you really
course.
take responsibility for every choice that you make. Also,
Right.
because your boss is me, and
Yes.
if you ask me, can I do this, and I'm like, I don't know, I've never done this before. What do you are the expert, what do you
Yes.
think? So it's
Yes.
entire, like, it's ownership 100%.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, Francesca,
Can
earlier you were
trust
saying,
someone. Yeah.
yes. That's definitely one of the many things that Endelea gives to its people as well, is that sense of ownership, that sense of agency that they probably didn't have working for the huge multinational brands before. Because as you said, in that kind of a setup, you're responsible for this much, and the action that you take normally doesn't have, unfortunately, that much of an impact. So, before you reach that level where your decisions are really felt by a lot of people, then it takes years, right? But in your case, everyone has to feel responsible.
They are, it's not that they have to, they feel responsible, because they are responsible. And then again, that can empower people and really bring out the best of them, and
Yes,
transform them all in basically like small entrepreneurs themselves. Or it can crush you, and it can like really like make you question who you are, and if you are enough, and if you're good enough. And that's what I was referring to before, no? So it's like not everyone is made for these type of work environment, and
right.
it's hard to know that by a job interview. It's really hard. So
Okay.
the only
Yeah.
way, I guess, like everything else, is to try and see, and hope that it works well, and then learn from your mistakes again. And it's tiring, but it's also, I mean, the whole meaning of it.
Okay, so wonderful. This time, Francesca, let's talk a little bit about communication and intercultural communication, because this is to me something very, very interesting given your setup. I mean, give us an example of, like communication challenges that you run into. Maybe
Oh my God.
you probably have a
Well,
long list.
I don't want to talk for the next 2 hours, but that
But I
like,
mean, because
normally
this is,
people,
yeah,
yeah, normally people will ask me, what's the biggest challenge that you had to face with Endelea? And this is the answer.
of
Like the
course.
intercultural communication was
Okay.
definitely the biggest, even bigger than bureaucracy, which gives you
Okay.
the proportion. No, no, I mean, and this goes both ways, and it's really true. And it's an incredible opportunity for growth, but also it was like, for real, and still is the biggest challenge we have, and I have, because I'm the
Okay.
one that travels between Italy and Tanzania. I'm in Tanzania now, and I spent 3 months in Milan, 3 months in Italy. Then sometimes people of the team can travel from Italy to Tanzania with me, or vice versa,
Okay.
from
Okay.
Tanzania to Italy. But I'm the one that is like half of the time in one country and half of the time in the
Okay.
other. So this
Okay.
influenced me personally the most. And it's
Okay.
like this constant necessity, this constant need to, as in football, to put the ball at the center, like
Okay.
to really, really like step down that, pedestal in which us as Europeans are like tend to put ourselves as like we are right because we are the center of the world, and because things have always been rotating around us through
Right.
colonialism, through history and all that, and really be able to step down and also not put the other person, the African person, on top of it simply because they're African, and
Right.
simply because we feel guilty, or and it's like, oh, poor her, she
Right.
doesn't understand, she doesn't have the necessary skills to understand.
Okay.
So that is the other mistake that you can make, no? And
Absolutely.
this, like, in general terms seems easy, but then you apply it to any single work situation that you find yourself facing. It's like it's exhausting because
It's
you always have to
exhausting.
fight, you have to fight your own mental schemes, and to
Right.
fight them you need to be aware of them, and that's painful because it's like,
Yeah.
oh my god, am I a racist? And
Yes.
but I'm to help Africa, so it's like it's painful to be aware of your mental schemes, and then to face them and to dribble them every time,
Right.
because they're there, they don't go away. Like there's like hundreds of years and millennia in which we were taught these
Trained to
mental
think a certain
schemes.
way. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so that is tiring, and then again the other person needs that dignity of being treated exactly the way you would treat another Italian person, no? So it's like
Yes.
also like resist the temptation of saying, okay, she doesn't know, never mind, no? But no,
Right.
like,
Right. Just
resist
giving
that,
up and saying, you know what, forget it.
and
Yeah.
take the time to explain
Yes.
and take the time to listen. So it's
Right.
always the two ways around. So it is an opportunity for growth for both of us.
Okay.
And I'm so proud of the people here in Tanzania in my team. There's some of them who've been with me since the very beginning, and we're still together after 4 years, 5 years, which is something that never happens here. Like people don't
Okay.
stay, especially tailors. I mean, especially freelancers like tailors, no?
Okay.
But because we were able to create that environment in which we can talk this out,
Right.
and it's going to be painful for a Tanzanian person because they don't talk about problems, and that's a big obstacle too, no?
Right.
So it's like, no, we sit and we talk about this.
Okay.
Mistakes are fine. We all learn from them. But I want to hear your perspective on this, and I'm going to tell you my perspective on this. And we don't give for granted that the mistake was yours because
Right.
you are African and I'm European. But also, we don't give for granted that because you're African, you can get out of it.
You can get away with it. Okay. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So this multiplied for I don't know how many hundreds of times
Wow.
creates like a great gym, great mental gym.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Unbelievable opportunity to grow and to really
Absolutely.
develop a 360 vision of the world, of the people, a real empathy, but also a real, like, creating the opportunity for real conversations, which is something that most people in my life in Europe don't even know what it is. So I feel like privileged a lot, and I know that I created this for me, but I'm thankful for the people who I met here in Tanzania who were open enough and and willing enough to grow with me in this, that
Right.
they stick to it over the years, and what started as a work and money related relationship grew into an occasion for growth relationship, which is not
Of course.
friendship. It's deeper. It brings in respect and
Yes.
and solidarity, and it's
Yes.
really, at the end of the day, if I look back, what I'm creating here is a work ethic that is like much bigger than just clothes. I mean, that
For
at the
sure.
end of the day.
For sure, Francesca. Because I mean, you've like you said earlier. I mean, I think that's incredible. The exercise of being so self-aware, that basically asking yourself, am I thinking this, or am I about to react this way because of certain biases? And just catching yourself every day and making sure that you're not doing that, or you're not reacting a certain way. That is already that is a huge skill. And the fact that you're actually able to tell them, because I I understand this culture of not talking about problems, because that's very similar to Asian cultures. We are also very indirect communicators. We don't like confrontation, so we will say yes for the most part. So this is, and for you to say no, we're going to change this. We're going to sit down and have a real conversation, and not be you not accuse anyone of anything, but actually have an honest confrontation. That's a very big deal. I think you're teaching not just yourself, but your whole team an entirely different way of doing things, and I think that's a very admirable.
Thank
um
you.
you're
It
welcome.
consumes so much energy. It takes so much energy, but it's worth it. It's worth it, and it plays out in the long term, no? Because people
Of
stay, because
course.
people really work on themselves, and
Yes.
again, working on production management from the distance, with a culture that like provides like forbid people from talking about problems, can be like dramatic. Can you imagine, like, are the skirts okay? Yes, they are, and then they're not. Or it's
Then
like I can tell you like millions of examples in this way, and or
okay.
there is a problem and nobody told me anything, and a
Right.
tiny problem, something that was very tiny in March,
Okay.
becomes like a huge tsunami that
Oh my
takes
god.
me in June, and I'm like,
Okay.
guys, why you didn't tell me, and again. That is the, as I said, that is the most challenging part, but it's
Right.
also the reason why I'm here. So whenever
Absolutely.
I'm questioning myself, like why are you in this why you didn't do it in Italy, no? Then the answer comes like automatic, and so it's fine. Oh yeah, it's fine. You wanted this exactly this way, so why are you complaining?
Okay, so but you're right. I mean, you definitely are building something so much more than a fashion brand here. I mean, this is a whole new way, a whole new philosophy of doing things. How do you make sure, we're talking about two cultures here, that both, apart from your exercise of really sitting down and being open with your team, how do you ensure that both cultures are not just respected but highlighted? Okay, we in fashion we talk a lot about cultural appropriation. How does Endelea make sure that doesn't happen?
By trying to remember every single time why we're here, no? So we're here to support the growth of a local fashion industry. We're here to support, like, as a consequence, the economical growth of the country,
Okay.
and we're here to amplify the stories, and become ambassadors of the stories and the people here. So that's the only thing to remember every single time. So for example, we choose to work with Masai fabrics because they're very typical here. It's part of the culture that plays a big role in the culture in Tanzania. The first question is, okay, who should I talk to make
Right.
sure that I'm doing it the right way?
Exactly.
To make sure that this story is told together and not me on behalf of them. So
Okay.
then you find the Masai Intellectual Property Initiative, you find the chairman of it, you bring him on board, you agree on an economical compensation for the fact that we're using fabrics that are part of their culture, and
Okay.
we share sales, like we share revenues with them, but
Okay.
also it's like really bring the person, and I mean he represents the culture, on
Right.
board in choosing colors, in making sure that the models are the right people and they are Maasai models and we shoot in a Maasai village, and
Right.
we become by all means an amplifier of the Maasai culture rather
Right.
than just stealing the fabrics
Right.
and that's it. And in order to make sure that this applies to everything we do, and that everything we do here in East Africa is relevant for the people here and stays
Okay.
true to our mission of developing a local fashion industry, we set up a cultural committee this year, and
Okay.
we brought on board people from different, areas and expertise in Tanzania. So we have the Masai chairman, we have
Okay.
chairman of the Tingatinga artists, which are
Okay.
super team here in Dar es Salaam. We have people, other designers like Tanzanian designers, people from the educational field, and
Amazing.
we really want to build with them, a strict communication on what are our ideas and our plans for the next trimester, and then they tell us like what's relevant for them, what can be
Okay.
tricky, they need from us. No, so
Right.
it's, again, as with the team, in a much bigger scale, it's with the culture here, a conversation, like finding
Right.
the people I need to talk to, make sure that we have that honest and open dialogue with them as well, and make sure that Endelea becomes a channel for them to tell their story, because that's the other thing that we do as Europeans. No, we tell Africa's story, and it's either
Right.
people on boats, or children with flies
Right.
dying of hunger, and that's
Yeah,
not the story that we see here every day.
of course.
I live in Dar es Salaam. Dar es Salaam has 10 million people, and it's Tanzania will be the ninth most populated country in the world by 2050. So it's like we're talking about people who live in all the possible ranges, but
Of course.
in these cities it's like the normal everyday life that we have in any other big city in the world, and it's not mine to tell it. So I work with local photographers, local models, local makeup artists.
Okay.
The direction of the campaigns is by Tanzanian creatives. So in a way, we are just the channel, we're just a tool.
Yes.
Our clothes are just the channel for everything else that I'm telling you, the culture, the stories, the passion, the dreams of these people. So that's why when they reach Italy, if we're good enough with our marketing and we're still, improving on all this, like I want people to feel that it's like I'm not only buying a skirt, but I'm
Right.
changing the world with these people, and I'm really part of the community of dreamers, like we call them the bold dreamers, like dreaming big, to really, to the point that you think, okay, through this skirt I'm doing my little part to change the world, and that's like very powerful, and I see the results here, and I feel again honored and privileged to have this opportunity to be an advocate for people here, be an advocate for the fashion community here. I'm Because Endelea is growing, I also now have opportunities to talk to tables that are like forbidden for most creatives here. No, so talking with the policymakers, trying to bring to the table those uncomfortable conversations that are
Right.
needed if we want to make real change. So again, we work with this culture, marrying it by all means, and making the story our story together. No, the Italian part, the Tanzanian part, we cannot really tell which one begins where. Like the two things at
Yes.
this are really, really, really connected, and it's beautiful.
Beautiful indeed. I mean, I think that's that says so much again, just about how driven you are by your own personal vision, because it translates in everything that Endelea does. And I think this is something that, like you said, it's powerful, because even for your customers, just to know that they're buying something so much more than a skirt, I mean, that is basically they're marrying Endelea's philosophy, the change that you want to see in the fashion industry. And I think that in itself is very empowering, and I'm happy that you are being able you are now part of those, like you said, important conversations, because we need to hear voices like yours to actually make change in the fashion industry. A lot of young, or a lot of other fashion startup brands out there, I know, um, like to also be sustainable. But given this, so many policies that are coming up now, it's like they're even scared about talking about their green efforts, because they're thinking, oh, I'm going to get accused of greenwashing. I might as well not talk about what what kind of advice would you give, I don't know, fashion entrepreneurs who are starting out, who also have that philosophy of sustainability, but just don't know where to start? Like, what do they start talking about?
So the answer in one word would be transparency,
Okay.
I think, and accountability.
And
Like, because
accountability.
transparency brings in accountability,
Right.
So full sustainability is a dream that it's not possible to turn into, a reality. The simple
Okay.
fact that we all are e-commerces and we deliver, your
Yeah.
item via truck or via flight. I mean, we are polluting the environment. Like, there's no possible way that anything that we make in our lives, not only, fashion, but any single object that we have, there's no way that it can be
100%.
100% environmental friendly. No
Right.
way.
Okay.
So the moment you understand it's a journey, and the
Okay.
moment you understand that you don't have to fool your customers into believing that you are sustainable, but you understand that it's better to tell the story. It's a
Yeah.
journey, so let's tell the story of this journey.
Right.
So as you see in this slide, I mean, nice timing. This is our shop in Milan, in Porta Venezia. We painted on the wall our KPIs. I'm sorry, it's in Italian, but of course it makes sense being in Milan. And if you see, like, for example, the last zero is like zero waste, through zero waste through, upcycling and other projects with the fabrics. So we started from there. Like, that was the thing that we were able to achieve,
Okay.
being a young startup. I mean, the clothes that I'm wearing, like, and that we're selling in the shop so far, are made in cotton, which is not
Right.
organic cotton. And I'm not making any, mystery out of that. It's cotton. That's it.
Okay.
Like, the
Okay.
same way we worked with the Masai fabrics, and because they are the original fabrics bought here with the Masai people, from the Masai people, they are acrylic. And so there's the
Okay.
way for me to fool my customers and writing 100% Masai Shuka, as other brands
Mhm.
did, but I
Okay.
write 100% acrylic. And if you have the curiosity, if you have the question and you're like, I cannot buy acrylic, I'm like, I'm totally fine with that, but I'm telling you the truth. I'm not,
Right.
keeping the truth from you, like mystifying things with,
Exactly. Just so
cultural elements that are not.
right.
Yeah, I mean, I believe in that. I believe in transparency and in telling your story the way it is. That
Okay.
creates that, the sense of, respect from your
Yes.
customers, because at least you have an explanation for every decision, every choice that you make, every decision that you take.
Yes.
So we recently launched our digital product passport project,
Okay.
which means that all the items starting from for winter 23 travel with, a QR that is sewn to the clothes, that part of
Okay.
the cloth, that will give
Okay.
you access to all the information, like where the buttons come from, where the labels come from, who was the tailor who made that cloth, and
Okay.
what's the
So
materials, of
traceability.
course. Like, full traceability, and it's in
Okay.
partnership with Renoon, so it's not something that we are telling ourselves, but it's
Okay.
certified by someone else.
Right.
And that is important. And again, I'm accountable for every choice. I'm showing you all the choices. If you have any question, just feel free to ask. We added a button to the, to the QR, like on the landing page, there's a button to directly chat with us on WhatsApp, and we can
Okay.
answer any question. And that is like that is the accountability part. And then, of course, spring summer 24 is in organic cotton, and that's it. You just
Wow.
need, to give yourself the time to grow a little bit, have your shoulders a little bit bigger to take in.
Yes.
Sustainability is really expensive, and
Yes.
so that for smaller brands it's even harder. And
Right.
and the conversations around fashion have been driven by, marketing budgets. And
Yes.
so, there's not even a game there, because of course my marketing budget of 10,000 euros cannot compete with H&M marketing budget.
Of course.
Okay, sorry for mentioning a brand, but
No, that's okay. I think we
everyone's
all
fine.
agree there.
So somehow the marketing budgets managed to convince people that a swimsuit that is made with recycled polyester is ethical and it's sustainable, while it still costs €5, which is like
Right.
totally unethical. It means that the person who made that swimsuit was paid like 5 cents.
Yeah,
So
something. Yeah, exactly.
unfortunately, our battle, like from the bottom of the pyramid where we are right now, is even harder, because of course the the public opinion is driven by these very short attention span that we all have, and by how catchy and effective your marketing campaign can be. So my story, it took 1 hour to tell you my story. That's a huge attention span. So I guess that's the real challenge. I mean, you as a new fashion entrepreneur out there, you have to set your intentions, and you have to share them with your customers. Then you have to be aware that only like a niche part of the market will be able to listen to that message right now, and you have to allow yourself the space to grow over time in by all means, to grow over time in your sustainability levels. And I mean, going from a normal cotton to organic cotton, for example, and grow over time in the audience base that you can reach, and the number of people for whom your message is relevant, and keep pushing, keep going, not be disappointed and let down by the outer environment that is out there. That's depressing, and we know it. But this is what I tell the girls of the team as well. It's like, we're not doing this for the customer that goes to H&M. Like eventually I'd be very happy if I'm speaking now to someone who goes to H&M. That's the goal that Endelea has. No, we want to make an impact here in Tanzania, and we bring skills, professors, scholarships, and all that. But the other goal is the other way, to bring advocacy and to wake up people in Europe for now, but I mean eventually the rest of the world, on the importance that we all have as customers. Every purchase is a choice, and choose to play your part in changing the world for good, or play your part in supporting something that is somehow killing and destroying the environment and the people. And I wish for fashion going forward to talk more about the people and the ethical part of things, and not only about the planet, which is super important, but I mean, people are too.
Yeah, for sure. Wow. And I think you're doing just that, Francesca. You're doing that with Endelea, and I think you are making the impact that you had foreseen when this whole ambitious idea was born, when you had that spark of thought and you didn't know how to get there, but you, with your leap of faith, decided to go for it. And this is where you are today, like you said. And I think that your message to new fashion entrepreneurs is very important. Just take it one step at a time. Talk about what you're doing now and be transparent about it, be honest about it, start conversations. And then as you grow, then that's when you take on other measures. But don't overwhelm yourself by thinking, oh, I'm going to do this, and then be paralyzed by the thought that, oh my gosh, it's so hard to be sustainable. Yeah. I think that's an incredible message. Okay, wow. Thank you so much for chatting with us, Francesca. This has been incredibly inspiring for me. I really wish Endelea all the best. I'm going to be rooting for you. I know that Endelea was featured in Vogue very recently. So definitely kudos to the whole team. And, I know you're going to be making an even bigger impact in the years to come, not just in the lives of your people. Not just in the lives of your people, but just not just in fashion, but in the world as a whole. So, I'm so sure about that. And to close this, I'm just going to play your beautiful, beautiful video so that everyone out there can see the wonderful, wonderful things that Endelea is doing and who the people are behind this incredible brand. Stay tuned. So there, a very fitting way to end today's chat. Thank you, Francesca, for inspiring everyone to dream bold and to not give up, regardless of what the challenges might be.
Thank you for having me, and keep dreaming bold, indeed. And
Thank you.
follow your dreams for real.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.